What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Mikey McNuggets here with another episode of the Ultimate Cav Show coming at you on a Monday night. It is 7:01 p.m. No Jason Lloyd, but there was something that came across my Twitter timeline that I figured was worth hopping on and discussing with you guys. We'll keep this short, quick, and sweet. So let's get right into it. Starting now on the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. All right, guys, I saw this on my Twitter timeline yesterday and figured it would have been a great UCSS topic. And maybe we'll do this in a few days with Jason and Tyvis and Bull. But we had so much football stuff to get to. There was no way to dive into the Hoop Hypes 2024-2025 shooting guard rankings. Now, when I saw it come across my timeline at first, there's a consensus number one. I think Anthony Edwards is the obvious top dog when it comes to shooting guards in the NBA. And after Anthony Edwards, depending on who you classify as a shooting guard, I think there's a real debate to be had over who's number two. And according to Hoops Hype, I'm going to give you the four players they put between 5 and 2. They had Anthony Edwards at number 1 as well. I'm not going to tell you the order. We'll discuss the order in a sec. But these are the four players they had ranked in some order between number 2 and number 5. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Williams of Oklahoma City, Jaylen Brown, and Devin Booker. Those guys in some order were ranked 2 through 5. I think there's a clear fifth out of that group. And 2 through 4 are separated by the thinnest of margins. I think Jalen Williams, who's an emerging star for the Thunder, is certainly a very, very, very high quality NBA player, but he's not in that same star tier level as Booker, Mitchell, and Jaylen Brown. So he's 5, and Hoops Hype had him at 5 appropriately as well, which means Mitchell, Brown, and Booker in some order are 2, 3, and 4 on this Hoops Hype list. And if you're watching, appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know how you would order those 3 players, 1 through 3, Booker, Mitchell, and Brown. So I'm going to lay out the case for each of them, and I'll tell you how I kind of see it and why I think by the slimmest of margins, Donovan Mitchell actually should be ranked number 2, which is not how Hoops Hype ranked it. We'll start with Jaylen Brown, reigning Finals MVP, reigning Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He has the prototypical size, strength, athleticism NBA general managers dream of when they're looking to draft a wing player. Little inconsistent on the jump shot, but can score from all 3 levels, can be an absolute lockdown, shutdown defender when he wants to, and he's played alongside another star his entire career. He's never been the guy, ever, in the history of his time in the NBA. He's been one of the guys, but never the guy. And the fact that he's fit in so well in a system like Boston's, which shares the Rocket thought, with Jason Tatum. Yeah, I don't know why I almost said Jalen Tatum. Jason Tatum, and then Derek White and Porzingis and all that. He certainly is his case. When push came to shove in the playoffs, Jaylen Brown was the best player on the Celtics in the final 2 series against Indiana and against Dallas. And when the lights were the brightest, despite what happened in the finals against the Warriors 2 years ago, he stepped up and played his best. Jaylen Brown, second highest paid player in the league, perennial all-star, averaged an impressive 23 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, shot 50% from the floor, 35% from 3 last year. And those numbers would have been much higher if he was on a team that needed him to score more, but they blew out so many teams that all the Celtics numbers were dropped down a little bit from where they could have been had they been in more competitive contests throughout the season. So that's the case for Jaylen Brown. The case for Donovan Mitchell is when you need a bucket, there are very few players in the league you feel more comfortable with the ball in their hands than Donovan Mitchell, who's played his best 2 seasons of his career in consecutive seasons alongside Darius Garland in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform. With Kenny Atkinson at the helm now, you would expect the Cavs offense to be unlocked in ways to utilize Donovan Mitchell even more as a weapon and an off-ball threat than we've seen in the past. Between Brown, Booker, and Mitchell might be the best of the trio, and I say might, I lean towards him being, he is the best, of individual shot creation off the dribble. Maybe Booker has him in ISO, spot-ups, kind of post-ups in the mid-range, but when it comes to attacking someone off the dribble, Mitchell, of the 3, is the guy you want. His playmaking, underrated, and he is a legitimate star in the NBA. Is he a super-duper star? like the top guys? No, and he probably never will be. But he is certainly a legitimate star in today's NBA and just got paid like one, and deservedly so. Then you have Devin Booker, who seemingly flies under the radar all the times. But on Team USA, he was the absolutely crucial cog to make their starting five work. The ultimate role guy, the ultimate glue guy, doing all the little things, including playing defense, including making 50% of his threes, that allowed the other stars on Team USA to do what they need to do. Booker, unlike Brown, unlike Mitchell, has thrived in an off-ball role before in his NBA career. And I would say from an offensive standpoint, he might be the most versatile of the three in terms of giving you maximum production on minimum attempts. He actually gets the ball less than both Mitchell and Brown do, according to Second Spectrum Sports, in terms of usage rate and touches per game. And that's because they had a couple other guys, mainly Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, who also demand the rock on a consistent basis. So Booker, a guy whose stats are nearly identical to Mitchell's, average 27 last year, one more assist than Donovan, one fewer rebound, almost the exact same shooting splits, but on fewer touches. So when I'm looking at these three, I think you can make a legitimate, strategic, well-researched, and well-fact-based argument that all three could be considered the second best shooting guard in basketball behind Anthony Edwards. But then I thought, if I was starting a team, which one of those three would I want to be the alpha dog on my team? And once again, I think there's a good case to be made for all three. But I ended up going with Donovan Mitchell for this reason and this reason alone. Despite the fact he has the least amount of playoff success of the trio, he's never been past the second round of the playoffs. He's made the Eastern Conference semifinals. He's made the Western Conference semifinals. Devin Booker's been to an NBA Finals. Jaylen Brown has won an NBA championship. Despite the fact that he has the least amount of playoff success, I think when push comes to shove, if I had to trust one of those guys to be the alpha dog of my team, I trust Donovan Mitchell by the slimmest of margins more than I trust Devin Booker, who I think is the perfect, could not draw up a better number two. And we saw it in the Olympics. Devin Booker can be a number one. And in terms of the best players in the league, he's certainly one of the 32 best players in the league, or 30 players in the league. Based off that, is he one? Yes, he's a one. He's a top 15 guy in the league. Booker's incredible. But I don't think he has that necessarily absolute killer instinct in big games. And I know the numbers don't necessarily back that. I'm just telling you my 2 cents. That a Donovan Mitchell has shown the propensity to have. When push comes to shove, you need the absolute best from your best player. Donovan, look at the Orlando series, games 6 and 7. He brought that. And Booker, from time to time, has shown that, but also he has crumbled in playoff moments before as well, mainly while facing Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. And as good as Booker is, and as good as Jaylen Brown is, I think Donovan's just slightly better and playing at the peak of his powers. And I think we're going to see this season Donovan unlock even more of the playmaking skills that he's shown in flashes under the J.B. Bickerstaff regime in a way that we just haven't seen before. And when he takes that part of his game to the next level, I think it'll be pretty evident that there's a 10 to 15% increase in Donovan Mitchell's overall game that we have yet to see. And if it steps up to that 10, 15% increase that I do believe is possible, it'll go Ant Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, and Jaylen Brown as the clear-cut top 4 shooting guards in basketball. Once again, Devin Booker, a terrific player. You would take Devin Booker on your team every day of the week, twice on Sundays, and not think twice about it. And if he's your number 2, you are in prime position to win a championship, unless you traded everything for Bradley Beal. That's a different story. But if you have Devin Booker as the guy who can be the ultimate best role player essentially ever. Like, Devin Booker is way too overqualified to be a role guy, but he does all the little role stuff that a role player needs to do, as well as you could ever imagine a role player doing. He is so good in that situation. But Donovan's an alpha. Donovan's a 1. And I don't think Donovan can do the things that Devin Booker can do in that regard. Like, I don't think Donovan would be okay playing off the ball and getting less touches than he thinks he probably deserves for the betterment of the team. That's not a knock on Donovan. That's just more of a testament to what Devin Booker does and is willing to do. And I don't think Devin Booker can put an entire offense on his back and carry you game in, game out in the playoffs like we've seen Donovan Mitchell do before. So by the slimmest of slimmest margins, I do think Devin Booker and I do think Jaylen Brown deserve to be in the conversation, but I do not think either is a top 2 shooting guard in today's NBA. I think it's Anthony Edwards, and there's a little bit of a gap. And then I think it's Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker 2-3. It's the slimmest of margins. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't being Cleveland biased, so I texted a couple of my buddies around the league and asked them, if you were starting a team tomorrow, who would you take, Booker or Donovan Mitchell? And I got a 50-50 response. I got 2 answers for Booker, and I got 2 answers for Mitchell, which tells me, although I may see things in a bit of a maroon and gold tinted lens, but I don't think I'm seeing this one in that capacity. I think it is damn close, and if you wanted to tell me I'm wrong and say Booker, so be it. I won't hear Brown as much, but I'll hear Booker. But I do think Donovan Mitchell and his ability to score in all 3 phases, especially off the dribble, which I'm telling you, under Kenny Atkinson with more spacing on the court, is going to look even better in this upcoming season than it has in the past. And his ability to play make, I understand the assist numbers are lower than Booker, and Booker's a good playmaker in his own right. But Booker was playing more of the point guard last year with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and the rest of their offensive weapons, facilitating to them as opposed to underperforming in terms of his shooting percentage, Max Strus, and a Darius Garland that had a down year. It was a 1 assist per game difference. It's really negligible. Donovan made some terrific passes. When he gets downhill, he's incredible. So I would take Donovan by the thinnest of margins. Then I would take Devin Booker. And then we will see how the rest unfolds. I know he hasn't had the playoff success yet, but basketball is not a one-person sport. It is a 5-person sport. And despite the shortcomings he had against New York in the playoffs last year, he put on a heroic effort when he was healthy this year, has put on the cape in previous years, including leading Utah to a 7-game series win essentially by himself over the Denver Nuggets in the bubble. So I'm going with Donovan Mitchell at number 2 by the thinnest of margins. And then I'll take Booker at 3 and Jaylen Brown at 4. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, make sure you do it. Also, FanDuel is giving out a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. If you're a FanDuel customer now through September 22nd and you place a bet, you can get that 3-week free trial then through the YouTube TV base plan. You can cancel it at any time if you want, but you can get every out-of-market Sunday afternoon game for the first 3 weeks of the season for free. Just make sure you are a subscriber to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and download the FanDuel app, FanDuel.com/UCSS. Second little bit of information to get to tonight. The Cavs will be the first NBA team to ever hold training camp at IMG Academy in Florida this season. They usually do it right here in the better part of Cleveland, not better part, but the suburbs of Cleveland, just outside downtown at their practice facility. Now they are heading to Florida. And this gives me very similar vibes to what the Browns do at the Greenbrier. And I do think, although in a much smaller capacity because the team is smaller, it's a shorter time period. They're there for 5 or 6 days. It's October 1st to the 6th. There are a ton of benefits to doing this, not just for the Cavs, but for the coaching staff, and to build the foundation and chemistry of what you hope this Cavaliers team will develop into in 2024, 2025. When you have a new coach come in like Kenny Atkinson, who has not spent a ton of time with the team because he's been in Paris coaching the French national team to the Olympic gold medal game where they lost to Team USA, that I think being together in an enclosed environment where you close out and knock out all the distractions by being at the IMG Academy facility is a great chance to kind of build team camaraderie early in the season. And luckily for the Cavs, the benefit of essentially running back the exact same roster from last year is you don't have to develop a ton of chemistry within the players, but there has to be a working relationship between the new coaching staff and the stars of this team and the role players of this team and the guys in the G League and on the end of the bench. And being at IMG Academy, where you are literally blocked out from the rest of the world, where there are absolutely no distractions except basketball for 6 days, is the perfect way to assimilate a new coaching staff to a new roster. And it could happen here in Independence. It could have happened here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It could have happened in Alaska if Kenny Atkinson decided to take them to Alaska. But IMG Academy has top-notch facilities. It's in Florida, so they can do some other activities outside of basketball as a team, whether it be golf, the beach, whatever they want to do, dinners, whatever. Like, they have a plethora of different options to do team building together. And this brings me back, and I know you guys hate when I tell stories of my D3 playing career, but I'll tell you one real quick. We had Hell Week So when we would go home for winter break, we'd have to come back about 2 weeks before the rest of campus would because we had games to play. And Hell Week was the week of practice leading up to that first week of games. And my freshman year dorm I lived in is in downtown Boston. It's an 11-story building. And there was 4 of us in the whole building, 11 stories, me and 3 of my teammates. And for 6 days, we had an entire skyscraper, essentially. I mean, 11 stories in a skyscraper, but you get what I'm saying, to ourselves. And it was, despite the practices being absolutely miserable, we ran to death. It was our coach trying to get us back in shape after a week off for winter break. It was like one of the most fun memories I've ever had is no responsibility, no class, no one else, just me and the boys hanging out. We became closer than ever. These are still people I talk to this day, but you're forced, literally forced to spend time with them and learn something about them. And as freshmen, very different than an NBA team, especially an NBA team that's getting run back essentially to a T, copy and pasted from the year before, to where you learn things about people you just wouldn't learn unless you're forced to spend this amount of time with each other. So I think going to IMG, very, very, very smart move for the Cavs. I see no downside to it. I see only potential upsides to it. And I can't wait to see the end result. And Steve Becker, if you need to send a reporter down at training camp, down at IMG Academy in October, I will gladly volunteer to be said reporter to make the trip down to Florida. I'll man up. I'll take it. I'll even be back to do the Browns postgame show that week. But if someone has to go to Florida to tell you what's happening at training camp with Chris Fedor, I will gladly volunteer to head down to IMG Academy and do it. It'll be a good chance for Kenny Atkinson to learn his players. It'll be a good chance for the players to learn Kenny Atkinson, get to learn the person, not the coach, but the person who is now in charge of their future on-court success, as well as all the assistant coaches, and just a good chance for the guys to build a little chemistry, build a little camaraderie without all the distractions of the outside world. So it's a good first move for the Cavs, the first team to ever hold training camp at IMG Academy. And I'll tell you this, and I say this with a lot of confidence, this may be the first time some team holds training camp at IMG Academy. It certainly will not be the last. One last break. A quick reminder that tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, we got Zach Jackson in studio. We got Dave Richard on the show with some fantasy football advice. We got Bernie on Wednesday. We got a star-studded cast of guests coming up the rest of the week. And starting next week, we go back to our normal 4 to 5 wide panel. G. Bush and Buller in every day. Jay's on 3 days a week. Tyvis and Jason on 2 days a week. And we got a special guest surprise coming in the next few days that we cannot wait to announce. That's all coming up on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Let's get to some viewer questions to wrap up the stream here. Let's see what you guys have to say, and then we will close out our show today. We start with Guru's son. Do you think the Cavs will sign Luke Travers to the standard roster? I love how aware he is on defense, efficient on offense as well. I think he's going to start on a 2-way contract, which makes the most sense. If you're on a 2-way contract, just like Imani Bates was last year, just like Craig Porter was to start, just like Sam Merrill was at different points, you can play in up to, I believe, 50 games with the NBA team. But then you can play in all the G League games as well, which makes the most sense for Travers because even if he's on this NBA roster, he's not going to be playing consistent minutes on any given night. It'll be a few minutes here. It'll be a few minutes there. He'll be fighting depending on matchups. So if he's on a 2-way contract, Guru's son, he'll be able to get called up in games the Cavs think, hey, we'll give you a shot. And if he's not going to play, he'll be able to travel with the Charge and play significant minutes with the Charge throughout the season. So very excited to see what Luke Travers can do. I would not expect him to be a big part of the rotation in this upcoming season, but I do think he has a chance to be a viable part of the rotation down the future for your Cavaliers. Creative Juice says, no love for Isaac Okoro, shaking my head. Hey, this Okoro thing, let's just end it. Sign the qualifying offer, come back, try and play it out, and see if you can get more money next season because the Cavs aren't budging, and it's very evident that no team now is going to give Isaac Okoro the contract that he wanted this offseason. I don't blame him either. Isaac Okoro is a nice piece, but he is simply a piece that you are not confident you can play in a postseason series. He has been unplayable, seriously, unplayable in the playoffs in back-to-back seasons now, and you cannot dish out big-time money, and by big time, I mean enough of the salary cap that you don't feel comfortable doing for a guy who you can't play in the playoffs. Do you know who that is? George Niang. So if you wanted to give Isaac Okoro similar money to George Niang, you could be looking at the exact same situation the Cavs had with George this year, where you're paying $8 to $9 to $10 million for a player who you don't know if he can play in a playoff series, and I simply cannot live with that on a long-term deal. Frank says, Jaylen Brown has won a championship and stays healthy. All that is true, but he did win Finals MVP, but he's not the alpha dog on that team. The Celtics team was so damn good. If you were starting a team tomorrow, he would be the third one I pick in all of that. But like I said, between 2, 3, and 4, we are splitting hairs. It is personal preference. Jaylen Brown's a terrific player. He's an all-NBA caliber player. I just don't think his ceiling is, frankly, as high as Donovan Mitchell's or Devin Booker's. And I don't really consider him a shooting guard. Hoops Hype listed him as a shooting guard. He's more of a small forward to me. I know positional value and exactly shooting guard, small forward. They're wings. It's all the same. But like if SGA is not a shooting guard, then I don't think Jaylen Brown is either. So I don't think he belonged in that category to begin with, and he wouldn't have been my choice even if he did. Creative Juice back with another one. Thor and Amani Bates lead us to the 2026 championship. Hey, if that happens, Creative Juice, G. Bush will be on the parade float with Amani Bates. Like that is the end result of this, is G. Bush is on the parade float with Amani Bates if that's the case. Let's see. What are you guys laughing at? I'm missing some sort of joke here. It's okay. I'm not going to get them all. Let's see. Kenny says Mitchell's top 2 behind Edwards. Mitchell got to the second round. Booker got KD, Beal, etc. got swept. Mitchell is number 2. I don't know who Hermie is. I'll be totally honest. I have no idea who Hermie is, but it's okay. It's okay. And no, I don't know who Hermie is, and I don't want to be a dentist. I like what I'm doing right now. Have you seen Evan's workouts? Hey, listen, here's the thing with off-season workouts. All these dudes are working out. And if Evan Mobley wasn't working out, I'd have more of an issue than I like what I've seen from Evan. He's dribbling. He's lifting weights. You should be. You're supposed to be a max player. You're getting paid like a max player now. You should be able to have a decent handle. You should be able to lift decent weights. So Evan Mobley, I appreciate you being in the gym, but all these dudes are in the gym. They're all in the gym. So I'm happy he's working out. I'm glad he's posting it. Shows a little more confidence, but we will find out in the near future. Who hit the ball further? Me or Tyvis? In the real pitcher against Jay, Tyvis hit it further. In softball, I hit it further. Gabby says I'm right. Shout out to Gabby. I'm the little elf who wants to be a dick. Get out of here. Frank, get out of here. Come on. I don't see it. And now I got Miss Nuggets. Oh, shit, I see it. All right, that's kind of funny. Kudos, Frank. And that's kind of funny. I see it. Well played. I see it now. I see it. And last but not least, Cal says, Mikey, if there was one player you could add to the starting lineup, who would it be? Is this like throughout the entire NBA? One player who I think would fit perfectly in the Cavs lineup? Realistically, or this is just a fantasy world? Oh, we'll do fantasy world. Let's just have some fun fantasy world. I'd want... I mean, if... we'll take it... Listen, like Wemby and Mobley together would be incredible. Like those two together, it'd be a perfect combination. So let's take out... Here, I'll give you a legitimately realistic one who I think is not realistic to acquire, but is realistic enough that it's not it's not a Wemby, it's not a Jokic, but a guy like Jaden McDaniels on Minnesota, a legit 3-and-D wing. And Minnesota would never trade McDaniel. So I'm not saying it's realistic, but a legit 3-and-D wing would be incredible for the Cavs. Or a legitimate, like Naz Reid would also be a perfect complement to both Jared Allen and to Evan Mobley. So Naz Reid's a more realistic answer. He wouldn't be in the starting lineup, but he would just give them so much lineup flexibility. He could play the 4 alongside of Allen at the 5. He could play the 5 alongside of Mobley at the 4. He gives you shooting, gives you offensive floor spacing and creation because he can attack guys off the dribble. He's a pretty good rebounder too. So Naz Reid's a guy I think fits perfectly. I also think Derek White would be an incredible fit alongside Garland and Mitchell. So just those 3 guys really. McDaniel, Derek White, and Naz Reid. 3 guys who the Cavs aren't going to be able to acquire. They don't have the assets or the money to fit them in, but would be fun if you could just put them on this team because it would certainly make the Cavs better. Q says Giannis. Yeah, I mean, like any of the superstars, add them all. Luka, Wemby, SGA, like they'd all be perfect. Devin Booker, frankly, would be another perfect fit to bring it all back around. So Derek White, Jaden McDaniel, Naz Reid, 3 guys who are second tier, third tier stars. Naz Reid's not a star, but guys of that realm who I think would be perfect fits with the Cavs. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Peace.